Well, maybe not. Might not be necessary.
What's the experiment going to be about?
Huh?
What's the experiment going to be about?
Oh, it's a great question. Okay. Well, here I have a plant. I have some iron out, best on rust. Okay. Which ingredients I cannot read anymore. Okay. Which are the ingredients I can't read at the moment. But, okay, my loves. So, for this particular live, I decided we were going to do a little bit of a slight demonstration. A small demonstration with a little bit of, you know, variables here. Okay, so we have a plant, we have some iron out, and we have some precious Clorox. Okay, precious, wonderful Clorox. All right, then I have some water here that I'm going to mix these things into. Okay, now the reason why this experiment is so exciting, okay, is because, you know, there are intuitive downloads that I received, like, you know, in the past, like, 24 hours or so. And I thought that, you know, this would be a great way to help us to understand, you know, the emotional and spiritual and even intellectual aspects of our being that we can't see. So I got some components here to help us to see exactly what goes on in the unseen environments of our beings. Okay, so this wonderful plant here, do we see her? This wonderful half-dead plant, this represents our person, us, you know, our physical person. Okay, which is still alive, but let's face it, the quality of the life of this plant is leaves much to be desired. Okay, and this bowl of precious water here represents, you know, the measure of goodness that we find in others, or the measure of goodness that others find in us. Fair enough? Okay, and so, you know, this bleach here, as well as this iron out, all right, that I use when I clean my crystals and things like that, but these two poisonous chemicals, which are very helpful in certain things, but, you know, not to sustain the life of a plant. I hope we all can see where I'm going with this. Okay, so what I'm going to do, a lot of times we get into relationships, okay, either us or another person. Okay, you still with me, you guys? All right. I don't know why we lost connection. But like I said, either, you know, this water represents the, you know, the attractant, what attracted us to the being of another person, you know, the water, either, you know, what attracted them to us or what attracted us to them. These chemicals here represent some of the toxicities that each of us carries, you know, and if left undealt with, we bring into relationships with others or with plants that are not able to sustain properly if these chemicals, which are poisonous to this particular plant, can prove rather lethal over time, you know. So we're going to pour a little bit of iron out in this here water, representing, you know, relationships that we have had with others, or relationships that others have had with us. Oh, it's all bubbling. Can you see that? So now we have officially contaminated the water with some iron out. Can you see it bubbling? I don't know if y'all can see it. Well, anyway, it's bubbling. Okay. All right. So that represents either us or others in our life who have, you know, childhood traumas or, you know, bad habits. Okay. And now their watery environment, which they've learned to sustain under these, toxic conditions, emotionally, spiritually, or intellectually. Okay. There's their waters. And I don't know if I should pour this bleach in there. So I'm just not, okay. No. I'm not going to do it. Just because I'm scared of the chemical reaction. Okay, because we got some pretty tough chemicals in there already. I should have wore a mask because the gases or the powder kind of went into my mouth. Pew. So anyway, and that's even indicative of the atmospheres that each person carries, like their walk wind or their aura. Sometimes some people soak in so much toxicity that even when they walk past you, you can, just like when I poured the iron out and some of the dust particles flew in my mouth. Sometimes when people walk past us, we can feel the toxicity that emanates off of them. Well, anyway, so here we are, after sometimes, lifetimes and years worth of neglect, trauma, and, downright mistreatment of ourselves, okay? Here we are, okay, holding on by a thread. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pour this poison in the plant, okay? This represents, the narcissism, the mind games, subjecting yourself to another person's ideologies and beliefs that, you're not in agreement with, that make us unhappy. And we choose to live in that unhappiness. Or, some of our ideologies and belief systems and ways of beings that make others unhappy. So I'm commencing to pouring it in the plant. Now, I know you're asking yourselves, Tiana, now it's pouring off the thing. But I know you must be asking yourselves, Tiana, why did you pour that poisonous crap in this plant? Why did you do that? Well, I could ask us the same thing. Why are we pouring, people's potty emotions energetically and spiritually into our person? Why do we do that? And then when the plant dies, the beauty that the plant once was that attracted this particular person to us in the first place, what happens? Because the plant can no longer, serve a purpose, then what do we do with plants that are dead? We discard them, don't we? Huh? So then what has to happen is, the Most High, spiritual ministers, holistic healers, and people of that nature have to come in, identify what has made us unwell in the first place, right? And assist us in our healing process. This is what I am proving to our desiring or, really hopeful that this demonstration is serving for us this evening, okay? I hope that this plant and actually visually seeing poison poured into it will wake us up to the reality of our emotional landscape, of our spiritual landscape, of our intellectual landscapes that are all very, very real and valid components to our beingness in our life. Because if we pour too much poison, right, into a living thing that was never meant to sustain poison, okay? Because what does a flower need, or what does a plant need to sustain life? It needs water, sunlight, and soil. We're going to keep it very simple. Water, sunlight, and soil. But if that water is tainted, right, with our, childhood programmings that, are not conducive to that relationship, with, unhealed aspects of ourselves that we refuse to work on, we cannot expect reasonably to retain the same essence, the beauty of the essence that we would be in healthy conditions. Okay? Now, is it still somehow hanging on? Yes. I don't know how. Only the Most High knows. But could it thrive? Yes. What's that going to require? It's going to require us to stop allowing people, okay, or stop allowing ourselves to pour toxicity emotionally, spiritually, and intellectually into others, as if we don't understand the predictable consequence of our actions. Everybody, if you're still with me, write out on the screen predictable consequence. Consequences are good or bad. They're just results. They're just results. Okay? Because at the end of the day, whether you apply something rightly or wrongly, you're going to see results. That's an absolute law. Good or bad. Results are results are results. And this is the consequence of poisonous things in our emotional bodies, you know, and allowing people to play with us in that way, or not setting appropriate boundaries over ourselves. Okay? What happens? We begin to die as if we don't realize, or as if we don't understand that subjecting ourselves to lower vibrations like hatred, like bitterness, like grief, or, you know, sorrow or frustration, you know, all of these things, jealousy, you know, envy, you know, these are very poisonous emotions that we're allowing others, or maybe we have poured into others. But either way it goes, these are poisonous emotions that a living vessel cannot sustain under. Does this plant look like it's thriving? No, it's not thriving. It's not thriving. Okay, so some of us, when we have these different ailments and these different sicknesses, you know, let's examine our environment, our circumstances. Are we on a scale from 1 to 10? Are we, you know, subjecting our internal landscape? Okay, our internal universe, our emotional body. Are we, you know, more often than not, are we living in frustration and in disagreement with the world around us, and even in our own homes? Is there harmony? More often than not, is there harmony or discord? Discord creates dis-ease. Is this bowl full of iron out creating discord or harmony for this plant? Discord, right? How do we know that? How do we know that? We know that because this is not what is required for this particular life to sustain. This is not the requirement. So predictably, as a consequence of pouring a toxic substance into a plant, what happens? It begins to die. In the same way, if we do not take a constructive look thoughtfully at what we are either A, giving out to others, or B, receiving from others, it's going to have a direct impact on our physical body. And that's the message that I have for us all this evening. I hope this message finds you well. I hope that this is able to enlighten us and bring an understanding to some of our relationships around us. Maybe this was the visual that was needed in order for us to, you know, truly begin our shadow work, or truly begin our internal inspection. Okay, if you want that, you know, that wonderful, precious, you know, relationship, whether that's in love, whether that's in business, whether that's, you know, in family, or if they want relationship with you, first you have to know what is required for you to thrive. And as we said, what does this plant require? Water, sunlight, and soil, right? Okay, so these are some of the basic requirements of the plant. What are your basic minimal requirements to sustain? We must ID that, right? And then we have to identify what is it in my life that is creating discord? Have we been the ones in these relationships that we're wanting to manifest back to us so badly? Have we been the ones that have been pouring acid and toxic things into other beings, and then, crying and begging for those relationships to come back to us? Like, please, why don't you let me dump just a little bit more poison into your spirit, into your emotional body, into your psychology? If you love me, you would let me do it. Do we understand how completely illogical that is? Completely illogical. Look at this plant. And then, we walk away from relationships, or relationships walk away from us, as if they have no idea why this is the result under their treatment and under their care. Let's be reasonable, beloved. Okay, I hope this message finds you well. I hope that this blesses you. I hope you can take a little bit of this and apply it to your life however it needs to go. Peace, love, and light.